Well, hey everyone, welcome to Midweek Live. We're so glad that you're joining us today. I know this looks quite a bit different than what you guys are used to, and that is totally intentional. Today is Veterans Day, and so number one, we want to just wish you a happy Veterans Day. We are so glad that you're joining in today to watch. Quite a bit different environment. Welcome to our home. My special guest today is actually my husband, who is a vet of the Navy for 5 years. In fact, we're going to kind of unpack a little bit about our lives, truthfully, as we spent the first 5 years of our life together in the Navy. And I say together, I was not signed up for the Navy, but we definitely did this as a team. And so just want to wish you guys a happy Veterans Day, and just want to kind of dig into really the life of a vet. And so my husband, I just want to thank him so much for doing this, for stepping into this. He had about 24-hour notice. It was a quick...
Pretty nervous.
It was a quick text of like, hey, would you consider doing this? And so I'm grateful that you said thank you, and happy Veterans Day to you.
Thank you.
And so to honor our vets, we're just going to sit in our living room and talk a little bit about the life, our lives spent in the Navy. And so, Dennis, honey, why did you decide to join the military? I mean, did you have these huge aspirations of like being in the military growing up?
Not necessarily. I had family members and stuff that were in the military, so it wasn't like something uncommon. But my senior year, at the beginning of my senior year, I hadn't really prepared myself for college. I mean, I had decent grades. I think I had like a 3.0. But I really wasn't ready to do more schooling.
Yeah.
So honestly, I got a postcard in the mail at the beginning of my senior year, and it was from a recruiter, from a Navy recruiter, and I responded to it, and within like days, they were, they were knocking at my door, yeah. So it was me and my friend Andy actually lived with us, and he was like, "You're crazy, I don't know why you're doing this and this and that." And I was like, "Well, why don't you come down there with me and we'll check it out." So they set up for us to take the Asvab, and that's like a military test that tells you like what you're good at, and like what you qualify for. Yeah. The better you do on it, the more jobs it opens up for you. So we took the Asvab, and we both did pretty well on it. Andy did really, really good on it. And so we went to the military entrance processing station. They used to have one here in Fresno. And we did our physical, and they kind of set you up, and they kind of see how interested are you in this, and so they started like presenting us with jobs, to do in the military. And she asked me, the lady that was looking at my test scores, and she was like, "Do you have any like special desires? Do you want to be a Navy SEAL, or do you want a submarine?"
They're probably used to hearing from people that were like,
"Yeah."
really want
to
like,
do you have anything? Do you have anything passionate? Like they want? I was like, to be honest with you, like this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I don't really want to go on a ship. And she was like, "You don't want to go on a ship? You're at this. You're signing up for you're getting ready to sign up for the Navy, right?
You joined the Navy. You're on to join the Navy,
right?" So there happened to be a guy in the room, which was really cool. He kind of popped over real quick, and he goes, I'm a CB, I'm a steel worker, and we don't go on ships. When we go on deployment, we take airplanes, and and so I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, what do you have as far as the CBs?" It's a construction battalion, and so she's offering me jobs like builder, which is a carpenter, steel worker, which is iron worker, and like utilities man, which is a plumber. So I took the utilities man job, and it was a 5-year enlistment, and so I kind of signed up that day. Me and Andy both signed up that day, which was September 13th, 1995. Yeah. I was 17 years old at the time, so I needed a waiver for my parents. And when I told my parents, they were kind of, my dad specifically was pretty shocked that I had done this, because it was really quick. Because when I was a little kid, I used to wear like camouflage and play war and stuff like that.
And you had like uncles that were in the military.
Right, my cousin, my grandfather fought in World War II in the Navy.
Yeah.
On a ship.
Yeah.
So yeah, but my dad was pretty shocked. You know, his brothers were fought in Vietnam and stuff like that. So.
And I don't think he had any inkling that you were interested in this. I mean, you were even saying.
Well, the thing was I told him I was just going down there to check it out, and I ended up signing up.
Yeah.
Like I did the whole like I believe in So that's how it began.
Well, and the interesting thing is, we already knew each other at these times you're making these decisions, but we really weren't dating or anything like that. We met working in and out on Shaw, and when you said you signed up in September, we actually went on, you asked me on a date that first or second week in October.
She said no. Right?
Correct.
I asked her to go to the Fresno Fair because it was October.
Right.
And she told me no.
Right. There's good reason. It was not because I was not interested. It was actually because you said, "Can you go to the fair?" And my dad would not let me or my sister go to the fair at night. So
which is probably
a good reason. But ultimately, I said, "Please, let's do something else." And so we did, and it really did kind of pan out fairly well because we were actually engaged.
Yeah, I bought
2 months later.
I bought Kim a ring in December and proposed to her, I think, right after Christmas.
Right after Christmas.
Yeah.
And so, when we say it now, I can't imagine being one of our parents at that time.
We were barely 18. My birthday was in November. Yours was October. So
we had just turned 18.
And we had been dating for a couple months.
So pretty much our almost entire relationship really those first couple years were all kind of in anticipation of the military, because you told me right out of the gate.
I was pretty honest with Kim out of the gate. Like, I enlisted in the Navy. I intend to do this.
Right.
Do you want to be part of it?
Right.
Yeah.
If we're gonna date, you need to know this is on the plate.
Right.
And if you want out, I'm fine with that. And I said, no, I want in. Let's do this. And so you went into boot camp in July.
I left for boot camp in July. Boot camp was pretty tough. We did a lot of letter writing and stuff like that.
I did way more letter
writing.
Right.
She would write me these fickle, and
I didn't know that you didn't have that kind of time.
I had
nothing but time to write love letters.
We woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and we went to bed at 10 o'clock at night, and they kept our whole entire day occupied.
Yeah.
Push-ups and running and marching and all these different things, and so I had very little time, so I would just scan through all these letters, and I even I don't know, jail or whatever, you're hiding things in the bunk above you, so you get caught,
right.
Yeah, so
Oh, and we did find a secret way to I got candy to you.
Right, because people used to get candy delivered in packages, and the RDCs are the ones that charge you. They'd open it up and they would eat it right in front of you, and you ain't eating candy.
Right, but I didn't know this, but you loved Swedish fish, and I would buy Swedish fish and just I put it inside
the letter.
The letter.
Right.
I wasn't being sneaky. I just was I don't need to buy a huge box for this, so I put it in an envelope, and they wouldn't check the envelopes. So.
They would just hand out the envelopes, So I was if you're gonna send anything, do it like that, yeah.
So we found a loophole.
So because I think my parents had sent me this big thing of beef jerky and everything, and they just dumped it.
I'm not at camp. I'm in boot camp, which is different. So
So I graduated boot camp in September, and all of boot camp, they were talking about Liberty Weekend. You get 2 days off after boot camp, and I went to Great Lakes, Illinois, which is right outside Chicago. So Kim and my family and my brother, and they all came to see me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, during those 2 days, I'm right off Lake Michigan, and I could smell the water from the base. I knew I'm close to the ocean. I was looking forward to maybe catching a Cubs game at Wrigley Field because I'm a baseball fan, and that's a famous ballpark.
Right. And I actually got to see it. I didn't go in, but
right.
I drove by.
So I get my orders, and they're for that day. I graduated on Friday. I graduated noon, and I probably left around 4 p.m.
4 or 5.
So my family travels all the way to Illinois to see me for 4 hours before they send me to my A school, which was in Wichita Falls, Texas. That was
Yeah.
Shepherd Air Force Base.
And that's the first time I think we were finally I mean, I don't know that we realized it in the moment, but I look back on that and go, wow, that's the first time we were really truly understanding that this was not two people that were going to get married and have this life together, but it was more like you were married to the military, they were going to tell you where to go, and I was going to have to respond to kind of whatever it is.
Yeah, so I moved out of my parents' house into Uncle Sam's house.
Yeah, so it was an interesting dynamic because I didn't have a say-so. I just have to respond to whatever it was that was kind of happening, and so you don't get Liberty Weekend.
Yeah.
Instead, he's going to get in a van and drive away, and you only got to see him for 4 hours or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was literally in Chicago. I didn't, because when I arrived, they met me at the airport, drove me straight to the base. They drove me straight from the base to the airport. And we visited at the airport.
Right. Yeah.
Before I left for my high school.
Yeah. I remember you had chili dogs and you hadn't had anything like that.
So I went to so I was looking forward to like Chicago style pizza or like, you know.
Yeah.
And I ended up having chili dogs in the airport.
You ended up with a really bad stomachache because you hadn't had
right.
Like, tons of
there's a lie out there, and it's Navy food is good. That is not true. Yeah. At least, yeah.
But you were about to go to a base where food gets a little better.
Yeah, so my next base was Shepherd Air Force Base, and like I said, in Wichita Falls, Texas. And that I got a little bit more liberties, you know, like I still had to wear my uniform and stuff like that. And I was there for 13 weeks. But towards the end of that was Christmas time, and that's when me and Kim, I came back to California during Christmas time. We actually got married.
Right, that's when we planned
December
it.
28th,
December 28th, yeah, that'll be your anniversary.
Of 96, yeah.
Right.
And so we saw each other for a couple weeks. I went back to A school. She
got
stayed
married,
in California, yeah. So we were like, you know, talking on the phone, like, you know, how come, because we miss each other, you know, we just got married and now we're separated again. So we ended up flying Kim out to Texas. Yep. And she ended up staying on the base, kind of a hotel type deal.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, I think again it was kind of me beginning my chasing him around, around the world and stuff as we're kind of going from one place to the next. And so, for this next season, we're brand new married, but you're in A school. You really don't have that many freedoms.
No, I couldn't even leave the base at that time.
And up until this moment, we're pretty convinced that we're going to get stationed in Port Hueneme, which is Southern California.
Right, so the recruiter told me that, you know, half the CVs are stationed in Oxnard and the other half are in Gulfport, Mississippi, and my chances of getting, you know, California are like really good. Slam dunk, you know. I finished second in my class normally. If you do that well, you get to kind of choose which one you want to go to, because not many people got anything else other than the battalions.
Right.
And so I got my orders, and I think out of the 13 people in my class, 10 of them went to Port Hueneme, and I was one of 3 to go to Gulfport, Mississippi. And I remember being really bummed out because I was going to Mississippi, and, you know, Oxnard is 2.5 hours away from Fresno. Mississippi is 32 hours in a car. Yeah. You know, so I remember calling Kim and telling Kim, like, hey,
I've got bad news.
We're going to Gulfport,
and
and that's where my orders are, you know, and like I'm gonna report right away. Yeah. And Kim had a pretty good attitude about it. I was pretty bummed out about it.
Disappointed.
Yeah, because I thought this whole time I was thinking, you know, I was gonna be you know, stationed close to home, but Kim brought up a really good point, you know, like we didn't join the military to be close to home, you know.
Well, you joined it for experiences, and we're about to have those, and so let's dive in.
So ultimately, you know, Mississippi ended up being a really good place to live. You know, we were committed to be there for the next, you know, 4.5 years on and off. And other than the summer times with the mosquitoes and the heat, it was
the cockroaches are really big.
Right.
And you know, getting stationed in Mississippi to me was kind of for me, I thought it was kind of the beginning of the adventure. I mean,
it definitely was an adventure.
It was definitely an adventure. But the kicker with what you did, Construction Battalion, is that your deployments were equal to your home port. So you had arrived in Mississippi as
I think it was January of 97.
And you were in NMCB 1, Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 1, and they were arriving back in like 2 more weeks from their deployment. So we were about to have 7 months, you know, in Mississippi, and we we ate a lot, and we, you know, we ate a lot. We ate so much food. We ate at so many restaurants those first 7 months. But then the equal amount of time away, because you were going to get.
So it was 7 months. 7 months in Mississippi, and then 7 months deployed.
Yeah.
My first deployment, I went to England. My second deployment, I went to Guam. My third deployment was to Spain and Ghana, Africa. I was there for 5 months, and then I went back to Guam.
Yeah. For your.
No, I'm sorry. I went to Spain, and then I finished in Guam. So I did a total of 5 deployments.
Yeah.
During my 5 years. So when I would deploy, Kim would come back to California.
And it was pretty typical 7 months in like the newlywed game, right? As you're kind of typical in that, like, you know, our furniture hadn't arrived when we first got there. So we're sleeping on the floor, waiting for
no
our
couches,
to arrive.
no TV.
You know, we're staying in an apartment that's not great. Like you've always said, you know, like the area's right around Navy.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So we were like a stone's throw from the beach, but we were right outside the Navy base, and like just a couple miles.
Right.
And Navy bases, the neighborhoods
typically not great.
I think our rent was like $280 a month.
Yeah, you were not really into spending too much money, but it's okay. And we got a chance to kind of do that, but we recognized that maybe we should get something a little bit more like cost effective. So we actually ended up purchasing a house that was going to be built while we were gone, which it was. We bought it. It was like $58,000.
Yeah, our
like
mortgage was like $450 a month.
So it's just a little bit more than the apartment. And so then you went to England, and I came to England and lived there for a couple months. It wasn't really. It was kind of frowned upon.
Yeah, I was part of a detail. There was only 16 of us that were stationed in England. The main part of my battalion actually went to Bosnia and Kosovo. I was lucky not to have to go.
Right.
Yeah, and so I made arrangements for Kim to come out on deployment, and I told my senior chief, the guy that was in charge, and I said, you know, my wife's on her way out here. I already got our cottage. It's right outside the gate. And he's like, what? You're doing what? And he was like, you know, I'm going to highly recommend that you cancel your plans. And I was like, you know, kind of not understanding why like he was reacting like this. So we kind of kept it secret that she was coming out. So I was like splitting time, like staying at the cottage and on the base. You know, I didn't want to make it obvious that I was like, you know.
Yeah, it was definitely.
But it was like Christmas time and stuff. So I believe we had some days off for Christmas, because normally on deployment we worked like 6 10-hour days.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of work. There wasn't a lot of time off.
Yeah.
You know, we were doing construction.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, very physical.
Yeah. Well, you know, your first Christmas, and I'm thinking we have to have a Christmas tree.
Right.
So we go and break ourselves financially and everything else to find a Christmas tree.
Well, and apparently in England, Christmas trees are not as much of a thing.
Yeah.
So we literally bought like a small pine tree, I think, and we just like put it in a bucket. We didn't have a stand.
I didn't think about that. Didn't have any lights to put on it. Didn't think about that. But I just knew we needed a tree, and so instead we bought a tree and we put it in a bucket and leaned it up against the wall, and that was it. We didn't have any lights or anything on it. For Christmas that year, we had a chicken instead of a turkey. I mean, for Thanksgiving, we had a chicken.
We thought we bought a small turkey.
We bought a small turkey, we bought a chicken. So, you know, this was just you and me, but we leave England, and I'm pregnant, and now life is about to change dramatically.
Yeah.
We come back to the house is brand new, and we get settled in for that next seven months. And I don't really feel like we had too much of a hard time kind of getting back into the swing of things after you returned.
Right. So, you know, during these deployments, you know, especially, you know, spending months and months apart, you know, it takes a little while to get reacclimated to your partner, you know, to the person you married, because you have been living 2 separate lives, you know, and like it's, you know, I said the communication, you know, back then there was cell phones were in their infancy, and so literally, you know, you would walk into a room and there would be like 10 phones, and you know, we did everything from phone cards, and so, you know, you buy this $20 phone card and you get like a 20-30 minute conversation. Right. So it was like really expensive to call. So we only talked to each other, you know, a couple times a week. Most of the time, like when I was in Guam, like there was a 17-hour time difference. Right. So like it was like Monday evening for me, and Kim's eating breakfast on Sunday morning. You know, it's like
dramatically different.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to be even more strategic.
Right. Yeah. Because I remember, I think England was like 6 or 8 hours or something like that, which was made it kind of difficult. Like,
So that whole next 7 months, again, I didn't feel like it took too long for us to get back acclimated again. But we're really hoping that Dylan, our oldest son, would arrive. His due date was the 16th. You were supposed to leave mid-October. So we were just hoping that Dylan wouldn't come too late, and he didn't. He came about 3 days after his due date, and so you had close to a month or so.
Yeah, so with a newborn, well, first of all, when we were in the hospital and Kim was giving birth, there was a hurricane.
Yeah.
Hurricane George hit, and we were in the hospital. We didn't have any time to prep our house or board up the windows or anything like that.
Right. And we're Californians, we don't know.
Right.
I mean, hurricanes are not something we're used to.
They locked us in the hospital. They basically locked down the hospital, which ended up being a good thing because we were safe.
We were safe, yeah.
But when we drove home from the hospital after the hurricane, we didn't know what to expect. Like, our neighbors across the street, I believe part of the roof was gone. Their shed was gone. I mean, it came close to our house, and there was literally nothing wrong with our house. There was you could tell the water level went a little bit underneath the door, and that was it.
Right. But we also came home to no electricity, no running water.
Right.
Trees were downed. There was curfews. Again, we're Californians. We really had never experienced anything like this before.
And we have a newborn.
And you're a new parent. Yeah. And so it was definitely kind of being thrown into experiences we hadn't had before, for sure. But I'm grateful we had the three of us together, and then you left again, and we planned for that next deployment, which I think was to Guam that time. That you would come somewhere in the middle so that you'd get an opportunity to kind of see Dylan.
Yeah, so I remember flying to Fresno from Guam, and I'm getting to see Dylan and Kim for the first time in I think it was 3 or 4 months into the deployment. And I remember arriving in the airport, I think it was LAX, and I remember walking and seeing Kim and seeing Dylan, and as I got closer, I could tell Dylan had grown a lot. They grow a lot in those first couple months. And Kim's holding Dylan, and I walk up and I give Kim a hug, and I can see Dylan's eyes, his eyes get real big, and he's looking at me like, who's this guy? Yeah. Because I spent a lot of time with him when he was a newborn, but they just don't remember,
Right.
He just
ate
and slept, So I remember being really excited, but then also really disappointed that he didn't recognize me, or that I was kind of like a stranger. And for the first time, I really realized, because with the baby, you really can't talk to him on the phone and explain things to him, I'm gonna be gone, but I'll be back. And so I really felt that first real detachment from Dylan. So I spent the next couple of weeks, while I was on leave, trying to build a relationship. But like I said, it's hard because you have to
keep yourself guarded.
Right, because you have to turn around and go back, and it's hard to explain, that.
I'm sure it's emotional. I mean, it was emotional for us.
It is, yeah.
And I think as a mom, I would take on the emotion that Dylan couldn't. I'm sure he was feeling as an infant, just feeling our angst over it. But I felt like I was feeling double of that for him, that he was missing out on his dad. I mean, it's honorable what you were doing by all means, but it was just we were never complete. And the times we could be a complete family were felt like they were far and few between, because, that was just a break in the middle of your deployment. And then when you came back, it took a couple weeks, and now maybe more like a month, for us to get used to being around each other.
When you come back from deployment, it takes time to get reacclimated with each other and get back on that emotional level. And in the back of your head too, the whole time you're thinking, how much longer before I have to leave again? At least with me, it was hard, to fully open yourself up, so.
Well, and here is where the interesting part of being a military family, and I think it's the reason why anytime we say thank you to our veterans, we also want to thank the families that are serving, because they're also sacrificing too. I mean, I can tell you how many anniversaries and weddings and birthdays, we didn't get to experience together, but weddings were really, really hard. We were young, so we had a lot of friends that were getting married, a lot of family that was getting married. So I would go alone as basically felt like a single parent, just missing my husband. I couldn't really dance with anybody or anything. It was just always very strange. Just look around and everybody's celebrating and enjoying their freedom, and that was at the cost of you know, what I was experiencing, and it was just kind of a hard thing to kind of
Yeah,
feel,
and luckily, I never had to go to war. You know, I
for sure.
I did
For
a lot.
sure.
We did a lot of training. You know, with mortars and you know, that was what one of my specialties was mortars. You know, we would go out in the field and do
Right.
field exercises, or I would be gone for a couple weeks. You know,
Right.
even during home port and stuff like that. We did a lot of training, but thank God I never had to go to war. So I could just imagine all the veterans out there that actually did have to go
For
and
sure,
fight.
our situation is
My
definitely
life was never in danger.
right. It was definitely mild in the fact that the things we were sacrificing were time and special moments and special occasions, but it was not. I mean, like my uncle served, you know, during Desert Storm, and we would get tapes from him in the mail. He would record himself at night, and we could hear the wind from the desert, you know, and he would just be talking to his brother, my dad, just about his day and stuff. And you know, I remember we would sit in the living room and listen, and so, and those are hard. There were some things he shared in some of those recordings that he was just afraid to even share with his wife, that he would tell my dad, like, if you're listening with the whole family, I just need you to shut this off, David. I want only you to hear this, because he wanted to say some things and be able to like process and stuff. So we definitely recognize that we served in times where there wasn't war, but the sacrifice of a veteran on any level, it means that they're willing. They're willing. If wartime were to happen, they're willing to step in and give their lives if that's what if it takes. And so, you know, I think we had talked about like this. You chose this. You know, there was a time where there was drafting for
So
for military.
one thing in boot camp and like A school, and then when I got to the battalion was, you know, they said, you know, that this was a volunteer military. Like everyone in the military, none of us were drafted. We were all volunteers. We all wanted to be there.
Yeah.
So they were saying like, you know, this is the finest military. And I actually got out of the Navy May of 2001,
Right.
and that was just a few months before 9/11. Thank God I didn't
Yeah.
have to go to Iraq
Yeah.
or Afghanistan, you know, because I literally got out just a few months before that all.
Yeah, but to that I'd even say, like, you know, because of the sacrifice that when there was drafts that we needed to have as a country, because of what those people were willing to give, it has inspired generations upon generations of people that say, I want to also sign my name and put my name in. And
so they don't have to.
So they don't
pick
have to
people
do
out of
those.
yeah.
So we're grateful for veterans that serve in that way, for sure. And I think our story is probably not unlike many others. You know, our struggles in being married in the military were definitely that my life didn't really feel like it changed all that much. I still, you know, I lived with my parents. Anytime he was gone, I wouldn't stay in Mississippi, I'd come back. And I was taking care of our kid. I was the one, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and changing diapers and feeding, and my life really didn't change. I felt like I was really staying in reality, and he was kind of in and out. Yeah, he was just like almost living like not a single life, but a life where he didn't have all of the bills to pay and all of the responsibilities necessarily. His responsibilities just looked different. And then I would have this structure, and he would come in, and it would be like, hold on, that's not when we do this thing, or that's, you know, we have a routine. And so we would argue because it would be, you know, he wanted to do something one way, and I'd be like, but that's not how we do it. So you're just wrong, you know. And then we would argue over that. I mean, looking back on it now, I'm sure he was just so tired of being told what to do that it'd probably be nice to just come home and have a say-so in some things.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge to be in the military. And I would say it's a challenge for married couples, newlyweds, all of that. But you have an opportunity to like lean in to each other, and you do have an opportunity to lean like away from each other. And there were times that we leaned away. There was times that we did not make decisions for each other.
Right.
But I would say more so than not, we tried to lean in and try to
Well, the
find
first
ways.
5 years of marriage is I think like the most difficult time, and you know, especially adding the military into that, you know, getting past that first 5 years. You know,
we don't know many of the friends that we made in the military that were married. We don't know many of them that remained, and that's just, you know, that's a bummer for sure. And I think that, you know, you would have the decision to come up and say, we want to re-enlist, we want to keep doing this. But I remember, at least for me, the moment that I knew that for us, I didn't want that. And that was your last deployment. Dylan was 2, I think.
Yeah, so for Dylan's, I think for his first 2.5 years, I was gone.
Yeah.
Almost
Yeah.
2, because of the way it worked out,
Yeah, and I remember you were in your military clothes, which he was used to seeing you in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that shouldn't have caused him to do this, but you were leaving, and he gripped onto you. Do you remember that moment?
Mm-hmm.
I can see it in my head in our living room, and you were just trying to play it so cool. You were just like, I'm gonna see you later. It's, I love you. And something for him, he just picked up on that something was different. And I remember his little hands just grabbing your back where your shirt was and just going, no, daddy, no, And it was like, okay, we can't keep doing, we can't. We're 5 years and we're done because we just can't keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for us, our decision. For me, it was definitely in that moment that helped me bring that to the table. But we always sat to talk about it. We always sat to say, what do we want to do? Because we thought about taking orders to Italy, thought about maybe living in a different country for a little while. And, those options are out there for sure.
Right, but in my particular job in the military, it was 5 years in a battalion, and it was 3 years. They called it shore duty, which means you get to spend 3 years in
not
somewhere.
Having to travel.
And then you're back to the battalion for 5.
Right.
So it's a lot of deploying. Yeah.
Right. And so we had to make the decision, and we made the decision to not.
Right, and one of my other regrets, looking back, being a Christian now, I was not a Christian when I was in the military. I mean, I believe in God, I just didn't know.
Actively, maybe not inactive.
Right, yeah. So as a kid, I didn't go to church very often, and we did go to church in Mississippi and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I think I probably did more to play softball for the church thing than I was actually paying.
So Northpointe, if you ever decide to put a softball game together, no, I'm just kidding.
But one of my biggest regrets, I think, is just not being more, enjoying my time overseas. Especially in Ghana, we built a hospital over there, and that was one of my favorite deployments. And that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was 100 degrees, 100% humidity.
Yeah.
It was hot.
Yeah.
And we built this hospital in literally 7 months. There was a battalion before us that did the actual foundation. So we did from the foundation up, we built this hospital. And we were working towards the end, we were working 12-hour days or whatever. But there was opportunities, in the community. Now I would actually do differently than I did then.
Right.
There was a lot of people, they wanted to be around us. They wanted our attention and
Right.
stuff like that. And a lot of us, just kind of
Right.
ignored them. And
You would have approached things differently.
much differently now, yeah.
So as we kind of close things out,
Not saying I was a jerk before.
Right,
I'm
yeah,
just saying
you would
I
have been more
kind of just turned
intentional.
my head before, yeah.
You would have been more intentional,
Right.
yeah. What is, final thought, what do you think is a great way to honor a vet? I mean, today is Veterans Day, and so maybe many people are watching and they're just not sure exactly, other than saying thank you.
Yeah,
Is there something specific?
I think thank you is a place to start. I'm not really sure. For me, it's not a huge deal. To be a veteran. Like I said, I didn't go to war and stuff like that. They might be different.
Yeah.
If I did. I do have pride in the Navy and the CBs and stuff like that. But one important thing for me, I work for a school district now, and I get the day off. Where I worked for another companies before that, they didn't give you the day off, and they didn't really celebrate it. They probably thanked us or whatever, but I think just having the day off from work is really big. So you actually can, if you want to go to a parade or participate, you don't have to take a sick day or anything like that.
Right.
I think saying thank you, I think giving props, stuff like that is important, but I also think getting the day off is important
As
too.
a way, because I remember he was at a company before And it was like, man, you know, it's Veterans Day, and of all people, you would think the one
Yeah.
vet like working here would be able to get the day off and not take, like you said, a vacation day. So if you have any pull in the job that you do, maybe that's something to consider. You know, maybe know the veterans that work for you. And if not everybody gets the day off, maybe at least they do, as a way of saying thank you.
Yeah, because
so it's
under
really
normal
important.
circumstances, without coronavirus and stuff like that, there's a lot of stuff to do on Veterans Day. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we want to have kind of a virtual Veterans Day parade. So what I mean by that is ultimately we would just love as you guys post about your family members, you yourself, or your friends that have served, make sure that you just tag us, because we want to just kind of display those on our stories and stuff as we just honor those that serve. Yeah, we're so grateful that you guys have joined us today. I hope that this was just like a little bit of a glimpse into the life of a vet and just kind of the decisions you make as a family. And man, if you're serving right now, we are so grateful. And if you have served in the past, we have lots of family members that have done that too. We hope that you feel honored today. We hope that you get to do something that you enjoy today. I think we're going to be barbecuing later today, so we're definitely going to do something that's a little bit more fun for Dennis. We want to thank you so much for joining us, and go and make it a great Veterans Day. Bye.